So number 3 says Abdul has an original recipe for a fruit drink with apple, orange, and pineapple juice. He makes new fruit drinks by mixing different quantities of the 3 juices. The table shows the amount of each juice in the recipe in each drink. And then we have this table. As you can see, there is the original recipe and the original quantities that he used. I went ahead and changed all of the fractions into improper fractions just because generally that's easier to calculate and compute with. And since we're going to be doing a lot of computations, that was just an easy step to do up front so that I didn't have to do it throughout each problem. And remember how you do that is you want to take the bottom or the denominator, multiply it by the whole number. So in this case we would do 4 times 1, which gives us 4, add the top number, which gave us our 5 at the top, and keep the bottom number the same. And that's how I went through all of those to convert my fractions. Now when you see this, there's a couple different options that you have in order to solve this problem. You can set up a proportion, which is just comparing 2 different ratios. But in this case, I'm going to use a unit rate where I'm taking a ratio and I'm making the bottom number 1. And how I'm going to do that is actually through division. So for this case, I'm going to have to actually use 2 different ratios. I'm going to have to make sure that I'm using the same amount of orange juice for all the apple juices that I use, or quantities of apple juice. And then I'm also going to have to make sure that I'm using the same quantity of pineapple for each apple juice. So to start off with, I'm going to look at the ratio of apple over orange. Now I have to do that for the original recipe and then figure out what my simplified unit rate is, and then be able to compare that to the 5 different drinks that he created. So I'm going to start off with my original. And I'm going to see how much apple juice I have. In this case, I have 5/4 cups of apple juice. And I'm going to put that on top because my apple juice is on top. Now notice that I made this line more exaggerated so that you can tell that this is the difference between my ratio, since I am going to have a lot of complex fractions in this problem. Now I want to take how much orange juice I have, which for my original recipe is going to be 7/4. And now since I'm looking at a unit rate, I'm simply trying to make the bottom number 1, and how I can make the bottom number 1 is just by looking at this as a division problem. So instead of writing it as a complex fraction, which can be difficult and a little bit more challenging to understand, I'm going to write it as a division problem. So I have 5/4, the top number, and then I'm dividing that by my bottom fraction, which is 7/4. Now when I'm dividing fractions, I can't just divide it how it is written on the page. I have to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to rewrite this as a multiplication problem. I keep my first fraction the same, so I keep 5/4, and then instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply, and then my reciprocal, remember, is if I take this fraction and flip it. So instead of having 7/4, I'm going to have 4/7. Now I'm ready to actually compute the first part of this problem, now that I have a multiplication sign. But remember, I want to see if I can simplify anything out before I multiply across the top and across the bottom. So here I see that I have a 4 on the top and the bottom, so I can cross those out and make them 1s by dividing them both by 4. And now I can't simplify anything else out, so I'm ready to multiply. I have 5 times 1, which gives me 5, and then I have 1 times 7, which just gives me 7. So I'm looking for the ratio here of 5/7, which that means that I'm using 5/7 cups of apple juice for each cup of orange juice. And I want to see what other drink options here out of the 5 that he gave me have that same ratio. So let's look at drink 1. So for drink 1, again, I'm going to take my apple juice amount, so I have 5/3. I'm going to put that on top of my orange juice amount, which is 7/3. Then I want to rewrite that as a division problem. 5/3 divided by 7/3, but I have to write that as a multiplication problem to compute it. So I have 5/3 times the reciprocal, which is 3/7. My 3's can cancel out, simplify out, and I'm left with 5/7. Since I have 5/7 here, and that simplified also to 5/7, so far that passes my first ratio. Now what I want you to do is I want you to try to see what you would get as your simplified ratio for drink number 2. Now you can see that with drink number 2, you also came out with 5/7. You start off with the ratio of 5/2 over 7/2, and then when you compute that out, you get 5/7. So that one is still in. Go ahead and try drink number 3. For drink number 3, you end up with 5/7. That one you did not have any complex fractions, so you just stay with the fraction that you originally had. Go ahead and try drink 4. Drink 4 is the first time that we see a little bit of variance here. We start off with 4/3 over 11/4, and when we actually compute that out, we end up with 16/33. So since that one does not match our original ratio, we're going to go ahead and cross off number 4. Number 4 is not going to be a good option for us. Go ahead and try drink number 5. For drink number 5, you would see that we also get 5/7, which is aligned with our original ratio. So that one would still be in. But now we have to go and we need to compare our ratio of pineapple to apple. Okay, so like we talked about with our first ratio, this one we're kind of almost starting over by looking at a different ratio because they have to, both ratios have to be true in order for them to be completely proportional. So now we're looking at the ratio of apple to pineapple. And again, we want to start with our original amount. So here, we will start off with 5/4 at the top, and that's going to be over our amount of pineapple juice, which is 1/2 of a cup. That turns into 5/4 divided by 1/2. Same process we used before, just a different ratio this time. So we have 5/4 times 2 over 1, or times our reciprocal. We can simplify out the 2 and the 4. The 4 becomes a 2 and the 2 becomes a 1 because we can divide both of those by 2. And then we multiply 5 times 1 is 5, 2 times 1 is 2. So the unit rate that we are looking for this time is going to be 5/2. Let's look at drink 1. So for drink 1, we start off with 5/3 cup of apple juice, and that is over 2/3 of pineapple. To simplify, we write 5/3 divided by 2/3, and then we want to rewrite that as 5/3 times the reciprocal, so 5/3 times 3/2. Our 3's will cancel out and become 1's because we can divide both of those by 3, and we're left with 5/2. So that one would work since we were able to confirm that there was the same amount of orange juice to apple juice in the original recipe and the first one, and now we've also confirmed that there's the same amount of pineapple juice to apple juice. Drink 1 would be an answer choice that we would choose. I want you to go ahead and try drink number 2. For drink number 2, you start off with 5 halves divided by 1. Anything divided by 1 is just going to be 5 halves. So that one also fits both criteria, so that would be an answer choice. Go ahead and try drink number 3. For drink number 3, we have 5 over 1. 5 over 1 does not match our 5 over 2, so that would not be an option. So we can go ahead and cross that out of our possibilities because it would have to have the same ratio for both, and since this one does not align, it is not an answer choice for us. Try drink number 5. For drink number 5, we see that the ratio does match, so that would also be an answer choice for us. So here we end up with option 1, option 2, and option 5. I messed this up. That's okay. I need white out.
Is that the first problem?
I can get white out.
For me?
You're still on the first one?
What's that problem?
Super long. It's okay, I'm just gonna slice it. I noticed it after I uncovered it. I did the wrong ratio on the
Can
last
you
drink.
slice them and put them together? I'm glad that you know how to do these things.
Well, kind of.
Because I don't.
Kind of.
Yeah. Well, at least you can do that. That's good. Because if you had to start over, that would be awful. Because you just spent the last, like how long is it right now?
Forever. It's a long video.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even doing the work. That's how long the problem is. Like, I'm not doing any.
And
I
that
did
was
like
only
half.
worth 1 point, according to the AIR website. And then the ones that I did were also.
Choose you. I chose you.
Okay. Oh, that's a nasty problem you got there.
What?
That one. Yours.
Mine?
Yeah.
Takes for freaking ever.
That problem.
It's just one of those where you're like, are you really just trying to make us miserable by making us do this, or?
Yeah, they really didn't have to put 5 drinks on there either. Like.
Yes, like you. Yes. I
4
can.
would have been sufficient. 3 even,
Yeah, 3 probably.
because you could narrow one down from the first part, you could
Yeah.
narrow one down from the second part, be done.
Yeah. All right, shush for 1 second. As you can see with drink number 5, after you computed, it does match with the ratio, so that would also be an option for us. So the answer to this problem, we would want to select drink number 1, drink number 2, and drink number 5. All right, and then I just hit stop. Here.
Sweet, yeah. If